Elizabeth was born on April 21, 1926 in London, is Queen of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland as well as 14 other sovereign states called Commonwealth realms, and their territories and dependencies. She is also the head of the Commonwealth, an organization of 53 states. At birth, she was third in line to the throne after her uncle and her father. In 1936, his uncle became king but abdicated a few months later, leaving the throne to his younger brother. Princess Elizabeth then became the heiress presumptive to the British crown at the age of 10. During World War II, she enlisted in the Auxiliary Territorial Service. On November 20, 1947, she married Philip Mountbatten, Prince of Greece and Denmark, with whom she had 4 children: Charles, Prince of Wales; Anne, Princess Royal; Andrew, Duke of York; and Edward, Earl of Wessex. She acceded to the British throne on the death of George VI on February 6, 1952, at the age of 25. His coronation, on June 2, 1953, was the first to be broadcast on television. She becomes the sovereign of 7 independent states of the Commonwealth: South Africa, Australia, Canada, Ceylon, New Zealand, Pakistan and the United Kingdom. Between 1956 and 1992, the number of its kingdoms decreased, as territories gained independence and some kingdoms became republics. In addition to the aforementioned Australia, Canada, New Zealand and the United Kingdom, Elizabeth II is now Queen of Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, Belize, Grenada, Jamaica, Papua New Guinea, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, Solomon Islands and Tuvalu. During a long reign in which she saw 15 different British prime ministers, 16 in total, she made many historic visits and supervised several constitutional changes in her kingdoms, such as the devolution of power to the United Kingdom and the repatriation of the Constitution of Canada. She also experienced difficult times, including the assassination of Prince Philip's uncle and mentor, Lord Mountbatten, in 1979, the separations and divorce of 3 of her children in 1992, a year she describes as annus horribilis. The death of her daughter-in-law, Diana Spencer, in 1997, the almost simultaneous deaths of her sister and her mother in 2002, as well as the death of her husband in 2021 after more than 73 years of marriage. In addition, the Queen has at times had to deal with fierce press criticism of the royal family, but support for the monarchy and her personal popularity remain high among the British population. Since September 9, 2015, she is the longest-reigning British sovereign, exceeding the reign of her great-great-grandmother Queen Victoria, 63 years, 7 months and 2 days. On October 13, 2016, following the death of King Rama IX of Thailand, she became the longest-reigning ruler and the oldest currently in office. Elizabeth Alexandra Mary was the first child of Prince Albert, Duke of York, later George VI, and his wife, Elizabeth Bowes-Lyon. Her father is the second son of King George V and Queen Mary, and her mother is the youngest daughter of Scottish aristocrat Claude Bowes-Lyon, Lord Strathmore. Elizabeth was born by caesarean section at 2:40 a.m. on April 21, 1926 at her maternal grandparents' London residence, located at 17 Bruton Street, Mayfair. She was baptized by the Archbishop of York Cosmo Lang, in the private chapel of Buckingham Palace on May 29. She is named Elizabeth in honor of her mother, Alexandra in honor of her great-grandmother the Queen Mother of King George V, who died 6 months earlier, and Mary in honor of her paternal grandmother, Queen Mary. Her family nicknamed her Lilibet. George V adored his granddaughter, and when he fell seriously ill in 1929, the popular press and his later biographers attributed his recovery to the frequent visits of little Elizabeth, who was 3 years old. Great-great-granddaughter of Queen Victoria, Empress of India, who died in 1901, she knew 3 of her famous great-grandmother's children and can be considered a child of the Victorian era. Queen Elizabeth has a sister, Margaret, 4 years her junior. The 2 princesses are educated at home under the supervision of their mother and their governess, Marion Crawford, nicknamed Craffy. Teaching focuses on history, elocution, literature and music. To the dismay of the royal family, Crawford in 1950 published a book about Elizabeth and Margaret's childhood, titled The Little Princesses, in which she described Elizabeth's love of horses and dogs, discipline and sense of responsibility. Other witnesses corroborate these observations. Winston Churchill wrote of Elizabeth when she was 2 years old, "She has an air of authority and mind-boggling reflexivity for a child." Her cousin Margaret Rhodes describes her as a jovial but extremely sensible and well-mannered little girl. In 1933, aged 7, the princess was portrayed by the painter of the royal courts and the aristocratic world Philip de Laszlo. On September 3, 1939, Britain entered World War II. During this period of conflict, when English towns were frequently bombed by German aircraft, children were evacuated to rural areas. Politician Douglas Hogg suggested that the two princesses be evacuated to Canada, but this proposal was refused by Elizabeth's mother, who declared, "My children will not go anywhere without me. I will not leave without the king. And the king will never leave." Princesses Elizabeth and Margaret stayed at Balmoral Castle in Scotland until Christmas 1939, when they were taken to Sandringham House in Norfolk. From February to May 1940, they resided at Royal Lodge in Windsor Great Park before moving to Windsor Castle, where they remained for most of the war. In Windsor, Elizabeth organizes a pantomime at Christmas to support the Queen's Wool Fund, which buys wool to knit military clothes. In 1940, then aged 14, she made her first radio address during a BBC children's program, in which she addressed those who had been evacuated. "We try to do all we can to help our brave sailors, soldiers and airmen, and we also try to bear our share of the danger and sadness of war. We know, each of us, that everything will end well." In 1947, Princess Elizabeth made her first trip abroad, accompanying her parents to southern Africa. During this trip, on her 21st birthday, she gave a radio address to the Commonwealth, during which she made the following promise: "I declare before you all that I will devote my whole life, whether long or short, to your service and to the service of the great imperial family of which we are all a part." On November 20, 1947, she married Philip Mountbatten, Prince of Greece and Denmark, with whom she had 4 children.
This video is finished. If you liked it, don't hesitate to like it and subscribe.